Has everyone had an opportunity to read through the meeting minutes? And if so, may I have a motion to accept, if there are no issues?
I make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Meeting minutes have been accepted. And I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Ring.
All right. Thank you, Reggie. We'll start first. We'll let Jerry go for the finance. And then, Jerry, if you want to, besides the finance, and then in Bridge and Highway, we have a question about ridership return to pre-COVID numbers. So I can handle the one about PACO, but if you want to start, that'd be great.
Good evening, everybody. January 2025 preliminary traffic was roughly around 3.6 million. That was 1.8% better than last January. Majority of the increase was driven by 2 less bad weather days in January of 2025 versus 2024. DRPA traffic and revenue. Final year-to-date revenue was 314.8 million. That was 24.8 million better than budget, 23.1 million better than last year. These numbers are 15.5 million. 15.5 million of the favorable variance relates to toll increase. Final November year-to-date traffic was 46.4 million, 2.3 million better than budget, 2 million better than last year. PATCO ridership and revenue. Final November year-to-date revenue was 12.2 million. That was 380,000 less than budget. Majority of the variance is driven by delay in opening of Franklin Square Station. Versus the budget, we were 3.6% favorable. November year-to-date ridership for PATCO was 5.2 million. That was 3% less than budget and 3.6% better than last year. Operating expenses. Preliminary November year-to-date operating expenses were roughly around 155.8 million, which is 16.8 million favorable to budget. 14.3 million of this savings is coming from employee-related cost. Currently, we have around 139 open positions out of 954 budgeted. Majority of 2.5 million of savings in operating expenses are timing related. Total DRPA expenses are around 101.2 million. That's around 9% favorable to budget. PATCO expenses are around 54.6 million, around 10.5% favorable to budget. Thank you. And the question relating to
Bridge and Highway that has the traffic on the bridges returned back to pre-COVID days.
In terms of traffic counts versus dollars, because obviously the tolls went up. So
the truck traffic is, yes, it's maybe a little bit better than or at par to pre-COVID days. In some months, we do see they're better. Cars are roughly hovering around 94% of pre-COVID days. We really don't measure that. We have the data. I've stopped measuring it because it's really historic information that doesn't mean anything right now. We compare it to just prior year, and we do the budget, and we compare it to budget. We do have the data. If you want more details, I can give that to you. But trucks are doing better than pre-COVID. Cars are still at 94%.
And then on the PATCO end, we're still in that 50 to 54% range. For the month of January, we're 0.13% better than the same month last year. So we're still haven't seen anywhere close to returning to pre-COVID numbers. However, we did have probably double our normal Sunday ridership than more this past Sunday. A lot of people went into the city before the Super Bowl and obviously after the Super Bowl. So that Sunday ridership was a pretty nice hit for us. And then again, this Friday, we should really send that number up to a very good number when we get everyone to the parade. So that's in regards to pre-COVID. I think that was it from Jerry's end. Anyone else have a finance question? All right.
We have no questions. So for sake of time, I have to make this statement. We have a full agenda when it comes to PATCO. There are a lot of questions. Some of them were answered in the packet that you sent out about the new fare system, but we can go over those. But for sake of time and trying to keep meeting on point, limit questions to what's really relevant at this point in time due to time.
All right. We'll do so. I'll move on because Mike has a couple questions. Says I'll circle back to the general DRPA, but I'll let Mike Venuto go on the bridge and highway. I asked him to give an update on bridge and construction, and then there was a question about the new LED lights, and then I'll ask him to give an update on Franklin Square.
Okay, thanks, John. Good evening, everybody. I'll update you on a couple of the major projects that are ongoing right now. So the Ben Franklin Bridge, that's the project we talked about before. You know, the rehabilitation of the suspension span. We're coming to the close of that job. That was the $194 million rehabilitation of the suspension span. So we are in the closing phases of that, finalizing what little work is left. We're taking down the platforms. If anybody's seen the bridge lately, you've seen the platforms come down off the cables, and now all the underbridge platforms are removed. So we're currently working on pulling. They were held up by steel cables, so those are currently being removed right now. We're using the maintenance platform, the maintenance traveler that goes back and forth under the bridge to take those down. We're working on installing some steel work, some additional steel work in the anchorages, but just that project's just about wrapping it up. At the Ben Franklin, we just put out the bid, a project for masonry rehabilitation of our anchorages. That bids are due on the 19th of March. The 19th of February. So that is to make so we'll do the masonry rehabilitation on both big anchors. So grouting, new pointing, cleanup, and the granite. All anticipation of the structural part needed to be done, but also good timing that'll look good for the 100th anniversary of the bridge. Moving over to the Walt Whitman Bridge, we have a contract from now for the pin and link. This is the phase 2 of that project. So that we're starting to see some work on that project here in the coming weeks. We issued the notice to proceed. At the Betsy Ross Bridge, we're still ongoing with the painting project. Right now, we're trending a little bit ahead of schedule. I don't want to jinx it too much. You know, we've had some pretty decent weather. The contractor has been getting at it pretty good. So there's some structural steel repairs as well as the de-leading and repainting of the through truss, and that's moving along at a good pace. At the Commodore Barry Bridge, we have 2 major projects. So one of them is the weld inspection and remediation. This was a project I believe I've talked about before, where it was a FHWA mandate to inspect a type of weld that we have on the bridge that was common in the 70s. And due to some bridge failures in other parts of the country, FHWA mandated us to inspect the welds and put a remediation plan for anything that we found. And we're working on the remediation now. We probably have a couple more months to finish up some of that work. The work itself isn't overly complicated, but the getting 2,000-pound plates, 120 feet in the air has been, and getting lane closures through some of the weather issues that we've had have been difficult, but we're working through that. And then at the Commodore Barry, we just gave a notice to proceed to Skanska. So that's going to be the $220 million project to de-lead, repaint, structural repairs, and do concrete repairs on the through truss span. This is the phase 3 of our painting at the Commodore Barry Bridge. So we're excited to finally get through this. We tried to bid this project years ago, got tied up in a bid protest and lawsuit, but we are out, notice to proceed. And so it will be challenging over the next 4 years, I will say. I mean, being a 5-lane bridge and that much work going on. But we communicate with the public about what's going on. We do have wide load restrictions, and that gets communicated to New Jersey DOT and Pennsylvania DOT. But we'll be seeing a lot of activity on that job here as the weather breaks and we come into spring. So I'll stop there as far as bridge construction projects. Anybody have a question on those before I move to the LED lights?
I'm not seeing any questions.
All right, hearing none, I'll move on to the question about are the new LED lights in the Ben Franklin Bridge operational? So yes, and so the north and south side track level and suspender rope lights are complete and are operational. So we took them out one side at a time. So the north side was out first. We replaced that, and then those were lit. Then we took out the south side, while the north side was then lit with the new lights. The north side or the south side was complete. Those are lit. Those are the sort of the dot lights that you see going back and forth. We still have tower and anchorage lighting upgrades. They were finished in late 2024. Right now, we're undergoing. That's the ones that uplight the towers, and those are being finished programmed. But we did have them operational for, if anybody's seen the bridge the last couple of weeks during the Eagles games, the bridge was lit up and well publicized. The bridge was lit up green, including the uplights on the anchorages. So they are working, but we're doing some final programming and some training and things, but they'll be complete very shortly. The bridge will be lit up green this week for the Eagles, and then Monday for President's Day it'll be lit up red, white, and blue.
You're not going to have red for Valentine's Day?
I think Green's supplementing that this Friday.
Yeah. We actually had kind of a little bit of a funny story. We had it lit red last Friday because it was from the American Heart Association Wear Red Day. And I did get some calls saying, hey, it was supposed to be green for the Eagles, but it was intentional. They had a request in. So we had a plan that it was going to be green Friday. I'm sorry, it was going to be green Saturday, Sunday, for the Eagles, but people thought it was a mistake on Friday night when it was lit red.
Wow.
All right.
And then Franklin Square.
Franklin Square. So we're working on a plan to get a public opening of the bridge. So of the station, we had a couple hiccups here towards the end of the year. We unfortunately had a lot of problems getting the elevator and escalator up and running. Jeff, I see you nodding your head, so you're well aware of the issues that we always have, all transportation agencies have with elevator and escalators. It's a tough business, and it's tough to get those things, get those contractors doing what they're supposed to do. So it was in the hands of our general contractor to get them out there, and we had plenty of debates and arguments over it, but they finally were able to get them in and get them tweaking those and were operating properly. We finally got the certificates for the elevators towards the end of third week in January. The third week of January, we finally got the certificates, and then we got a certificate of occupancy right after that. So we have a planning meeting internally to figure out the next steps. So we're going to have an opening. And we're starting to plan the opening and what that's going to look like. So within the next month or so, I would expect to see that we're going to announcing a date and a grand opening for that.
I did see on social media some folks recommend that you open it for the parade on Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little too far from.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
So
We do
Jeff, real
expect-
quick to that point, in 2008, we had the South Walkway, we had a flight of stairs. So users that use the walkway, they encountered a wait time to descend the stairs. Now with the walkway ramp, we don't anticipate we have a full width walkway ramp now instead of the staircase. So we're hoping that that's going to, resolve any of those delays.
and then speaking what Mike mentions about that, it's still in a thing, and Reggie, this would be an advance, a notice of advance. We're still looking to work together to have a visit to the station before it's opened. So we will make sure that the CAC members are invited to that when we know it. It'll be on a weekend. We've talked about before, so we'll work with Mike on a time for that. But we're still intending to do that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
We're thinking about a train from Lindenwold or Woodcrest or maybe both on a weekend. Take it in there, be able to get off Franklin Square, walk around tour. The building really does look nice, and it was unfortunate to see it sit there. Everything looked nice and ready and shiny, and just those little escalator and elevator problems. But there'll be a tour before the grand opening.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess there was another question in the PACO. Are we planning to run a simulated service to demonstrate the activity before opening. I take it that's for Franklin Square. Somebody had a question.
Yes, it's for the
Yeah,
Franklin Square.
The FRA mandates it on the FRA side now. I'm not sure if the FTA now mandates that you demonstrate the service to them before they let you run it.
we do not have that requirement from FTA. However, we did do stops because our transit service department made sure that we did the stops, simulated the stops, how long the operator would be there, so it all matches up with our headway and everything. So our current headway, we'll be able to incorporate that stop, and we won't have to change our schedule or anything. So, and that,
I failed to say one other thing that we're still doing. There's a few things that weren't in the contract that were finished at the time we were finishing the elevators and escalators. There were a few items that weren't in the contract that we only were able to do ourselves with the integration to the PACO systems. And John is working on some of that stuff as we speak too. So that we're working on that. It's not going to prevent us from opening, but we'll still have some minor things to do once we get the station opened.
Will you have cell service in the station?
there is not at this time. We reached out, the current vendor, T-Mobile, who has been installing all these systems throughout our subways. We've informed them about going in there, so we haven't heard back from them. I did reach out to Comcast, Xfinity. That was last year. I have it on my list to follow up. They did not have money in their budgets last year to install their equipment there, but that's something I have to do. And we have not heard from Verizon. We have an agreement with AT&T to do work, but they haven't done any field work or any prep yet for that. All right, so next up, I will have Rob report. There was 2 questions under PACO. So Rob, it was about somebody asked about recent violent activities.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, if somebody could clarify on or specify on what activities, because I checked our CAD and checked with our command staff, and there hasn't been any violent crime listed in our CAD or in any of our train or on any of our train cars. And the last one we had was back at the end of November in a station, but that was over in Philadelphia. So I'm not sure exactly what they're referencing by that in that question.
I'm wondering if I did post that. A friend of mine gets on at Lindenwold, and she said about 2 weeks ago when they were getting on, parts of it were cordoned off. There was blood everywhere, and even the homeless people were directing regular patrons, like, don't go this way, go that way. I forget the whole story now because
there was an incident between 2 homeless
Mhm.
people. If that's the same.
Yeah, she said there was a lot of blood everywhere, and that they were directing people. Other people were directing them to the regular patrons to another area. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know the whole story. But was that resolved with an officer, or?
Yes,
So it was in your reports?
that is not in our reports as a violent act for our officers. That is a violent act. Let me clarify, but that is not one of our patrons being assaulted as it was implied in that question. It was homeless against homeless fighting for a spot. And that's what the end result was, what your friend saw. So that would be a violent act.
Okay,
Unfortunately,
so it's not reported anywhere then, because it wasn't a patron of PATCO, but it was someone that was in a PATCO station owned by PATCO, correct? But it's not reported anywhere because it wasn't a patron. It was just people.
it is reported, but it is not, no arrests were made because they did not have a complainant. Nothing was visibly seen by one of our officers to make an arrest.
So there's no cameras there
to
that anybody could rewind and look at.
To further clarify, when we make arrests of the homeless, we have an individual, and I brought this to show, if you can see, minus the name. This woman, for an example, to give you the proper perspective of what we deal with, she's assaulted our officers twice. She's assaulted patrons and other homeless people. And she has 15 outstanding warrants. Yet when we took her to jail 12 days ago, she was released. And by that evening, she was back in our station. So
Why was she
again,
released?
it boils down to resources, and it boils down to more external resources than internal, because when we take people to either jail or crisis, they are released and they are back in our system regularly.
But I think we've strayed away from the intended question, which was it was it reported? Was it in your report? And let's take it one step further. What constitutes it being in your report if it wasn't there?
What constitutes being in our report, that's an incident. It doesn't come up as under a violent incident when I research them that way, or when my lead dispatcher researched them that way, because there was no complaint filed, Reggie. So there was an incident, but homeless on homeless, and there was no complaint filed criminally. So therefore, it comes up differently in our research when I research the cat.
Okay. So I had a couple other questions, but I want to talk to you about something that happened last Thursday. A friend of mine was going home. She's a nurse at Jefferson. 1:14 p.m. I get this panic text from her. Can you call this number and report a dangerous person on car 1055? What's going on? She tells me. He's staring at her, mumbling her, keeps encroaching on her space, etc., etc., etc. I call the police number for her because she doesn't want to get on her phone. They're not going to do anything because I don't have a description. I'm sorry. The woman was afraid to get on her phone because the guy was like right up on her. But he won't do anything because I don't have a description. So she finally manages to get me one. White, blue sweatshirt, blah, 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 2 bags of stuff. I had hung up in the meantime because I didn't know what else to do. So I call back and I got a very nice young lady on the phone, and she turned to the gentleman. She said, "Did you just take a report?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm sending an officer. I'm sorry that we inconvenienced him. This is a nurse at Jefferson. She wasn't making this up. She's not dramatic. If somebody's calling you and saying something's going on, can you just send an officer without an attitude?" It was 1:14. I got this happened at 1:14 on last Thursday. Is when she texted me. So if you want to pull the call.
I will. Absolutely. Yeah. So that would have been the 6th, Judy?
Last Thursday. At 1:14, she texted me.
Okay.
And they did send an officer and they did stop, but it took me 2 phone calls to get somebody for them. 2.
And you called in that same time frame?
I called them in within minutes of each other.
I'll be able to find it.
Yeah, but it was about that same time. Yes.
Okay.
And just real quick, Judy, too, is we have the app where she could put all the information.
But the whole problem with that is she didn't want to pull her phone out. Right. I don't like to have my phone out on the train because people have walked up to me and said, "Can I make a phone call?" No.
Yeah.
And I don't need somebody stealing a phone out of my hand. So people don't want to use their phones on the app. And that's why Regina didn't use the phone.
And quite honestly,
she actually gave me the description. She did it on her watch.
Quite honestly, the phone would get better results anyway, typically.
And plus she said,
quicker results than the app.
The look up, speak up app?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have a discussion on that another night. I'm not going to tie up the whole meeting.
But just so you know, that goes directly to police dispatch. That's 24/7.
But that's who I called. 955. I'm sorry, 856-963-7995.
Yes.
So isn't that the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
But if she couldn't call and she could send a text or use the app, just say it's another avenue if they didn't want to physically have the phone up to their ear.
So is the
like I said, she got me that information through her watch.
Is the app available to use on your watch?
I've never tried to put it on my watch.
Either way, though, I appreciate Judy's point, because the point is that regardless of how the information came in, it should have been received more receptively and acted on more quickly, and that will be addressed.
Exactly.
Specifically with whomever that dispatcher was that received that call, because I'll be able to find that out very easily. So
thank you. All right, I'm done with my
Okay.
stuff, Reggie. Thank you.
No, that was important. That's very
It is.
important.
And just to give you, there's one other thing on here about the head houses and homeless or people sleeping in the stations. And again, I know this sounds like a broken record, but we do our station sweeps. Bless you, Reggie. We do our station
you.
sweeps in the morning, and we don't have officers for every station, right? So the officers go through the stations in their sector and they clear people. And honestly, when someone they may clear a few people at Collingswood and then go to Westmont and then Haddonfield or vice versa. But shortly after they leave the station that they just cleared, people go right back inside. And we can move people and have people go out all day, but when you leave the station, they're right back in the station, and it's
I'm not going to harp on it
unfortunate.
again.
Yeah,
These are
'cause I-
people. They're
Yeah.
comfort down. They're under comforters. They're all hunkered down. But there's been people posting it on the Facebook page too. It's not just coming from me.
No, it's
So,
fine.
because I know everybody
Yeah.
thinks I'm the biggest complainer. I'm not.
So
No,
it seems
I
that- it
appreciate
seems-
you just, yeah, you sent me
But, I
an
mean-
email that day and I looked at it and you had gone through and then at 6:03 the officer came through on, because we do have a officer shift and Rob will tell you at 6 PM and 6 AM is when they do their change of shifts. And there was an officer that came up the steps at 6:03 to get those individuals out.
But no, you want to hear a funny? The day they were giving out the the clubs for the Kias, they were set up at the top of the ramp going to the elevator in Collingswood. I take the elevator every day because I'm lazy. I turn the corner and guess who's all camped out sleeping in that corner? I mean, I didn't, what was I going to do? Go at that point, I'm just going to go because I laughed. So if they were like less than what, 15, 20 feet. So
what-
I'm sorry. I mean, I totally respect law enforcement and I would not want to be in law enforcement right now, but I just, sometimes I feel like we're getting, like I said,
so
it's not just
why
for me
don't-
now. It's people on the Facebook page and it's not being addressed.
Right, so why
they're
don't we
being-
do this? So,
Yeah.
so since this is it's an important topic, public safety, we need to have an expanded conversation on this. So we can really talk about, really dig into it. So for next month, I'm gonna carry this topic over and we're gonna spend at least a good 10, 15 minutes on this one topic. So a good chunk of the meeting will be devoted toward public safety for next month. So let's cue that up. If you have any public safety issues, questions that need to be addressed, let's bring these up from our constituents outside of this committee because it's an issue that affects us all. So next month, be prepared for a 15, 20-minute conversation on public safety. Back to you, Mr. Rank.
All right. I think that's all for you, Rob. The first part of the question, an update on the construction. The Collingswood Head House, the materials are being delivered next week. So they have about 3 months of construction left, and then it'll move to the east side where that will take 6 months for them. The contractors did have some issues, supply issues getting those materials in. That's why it's taking a little longer. And then the Woodcrest project, the engineers say that it appears that maybe late summer, early fall, platform 1 or the south platform heading east, the construction should be done, reopened, and then it'll move to the westbound platform next. So that's an update on those 2 projects. And then I will jump to our special guest today, Mr. Williams. If you would like to take the general DRPA question, and then there's a couple in PACO I'll get to. So
Okay, sure, definitely. Good evening, everyone. So the first question I'm seeing here is why is there limited engagement from social with DRPA or responses take a little bit longer? We do try to respond to, inquiries, comments as quickly as possible. Some of the inquiries we do, some of the answers we know right away, we can respond. Some of them do take a little bit to find the correct answer, to source out the right information before we respond. Is there anything in particular? I know there's a couple that were that seemed like they were hanging out there. What we found recently, there's a lot of posts that we were getting over the last couple months where people were asking the same question. And this might be in regards, for example, like say Franklin Square Station. We would have a couple users posting, what's the status, when is it going to open? They would post this multiple times a day over a course of a couple of days. We would respond to one or two of those, but the next day they would acknowledge the response. The next day they would post the same type of question. So we're trying to work through how to best address that. Like, we responded back and we say, we responded to your other message on the other thread. Did you see it? Yes. But then the next day it turns around and gets the same response. So we're trying to work through some of those issues. But is there anything in particular or anything that was highlighted other than I'm just speaking, as a broad, high level look here?
It was more broad.
Okay.
So, and then one thing on that too, we working with Mike Williams' group, when social is not here and we have an issue on a train, we've come up with some standard messages that our CSAs and the dispatchers at center will push out. Just as an informational piece, they don't engage back because usually it's one dispatcher, one CSA. They'll push out something that the train was annulled due to some reason, things of that nature. So we might not get a response to it because they're not tasked with responding. And then when Mike's team would come in the morning or after a weekend, they would respond. But if it's a specific crisis or a big deal, then Mike will get on and handle it, on a weekend or something. So just if some people see, like the other day, we had a medical emergency on a train. It was before anyone got in here, and center pushed out a message that the train was annulled due to a medical emergency. So we try to get information out to somebody who might be waiting for it, but you might not get a response right away to off our.
Yeah, and John, that's a great point. Our social media coverage, we're 7 to 7 weekdays. So something like that, if it's after hours, we do have CSAs that will push out, and it's a one-way street where we're just getting the information out there. This morning we had a train that was canceled around 6:45 this morning, and they put it out, train's canceled, the next one's going to be at 6:55 or whatever the next scheduled departure is. But something like that, if there's comments on that, we do try to go back and circle back on them, but at that point we're already a couple hours out, especially on the weekends when but we can look at how to improve that process to circle back on older comments.
Any other questions for Mike on that? All right, Mike, the next one would be, because you format the schedule LCDs. There's a question about the midnight hours.
Sure. I just need a little clarification. I saw that on here, had the midnight hours as 008. Are we asking to have it in 24 hours military time format?
This was me.
Okay.
My mother unfortunately had a fall, and I was at Cooper at 12:15 a.m. getting off at Broadway. And when I was on the speed line waiting at 8th and Market at like just past midnight, it looked like the red screens listed the time not in an AM PM format, but instead of saying like 12:08 a.m., it listed it as 0:08 as the time. So it's probably something no one caught because people aren't looking at the signs at whatever time, but that's just something that probably needs to be fixed.
So Jeff, is this the overhead signs or the vertical signs that are on the platforms?
These are the vertical ones that like list the PDF schedule,
Okay,
like the one for the day at
it's
the
time
bottom.
at the very bottom in the big red block.
The current time, exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Rank, we'll have to take a look at that because that's something with the software, so we can see how that displays. And Jeff, what time was that?
I think it was 12. I don't know if I got a picture. I'll take a look if I got one.
Okay.
I think we put that clock. I think that was Reggie's suggestion about putting the time on the bottom to sign. So,
Yes.
all right, now we know what we have to look at. So thank you, Jeff, on that. And then there was two questions on the GTFS. There was one about the Eagles game on the 26th. That's when we pushed out a quick bonus schedule of instead of 30 minutes, we did 20 minutes to try to get more people over. So I will fill in, but I'll let Mike talk about some of the work him and I have been doing since the last meeting. If you want to take that, Mike.
Yeah, so the GTFS and Jeff, we've been going back and forth for a while on this. And we're trying to find a solution that's going to fix enhance, correct some of the issues that we're having. Definitely showing the special schedules, the holiday schedules, or any track work schedules. But what we're running into is a lot of the vendors do not have an off-the-shelf solution for us. We found a couple, and we can go a little bit more into detail on this, if you like. But the best solution we found so far was to issue a travel alert. So instead of having the times in there, and you can do this in Google Partner Dash, to block out that time. So if you have track work from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., you can just put a service alert and just take the times out. The solution I want something that's better than that. I want to be able to get the actual times in there, because I think it's a great solution, but I feel like we have to take the next step and find a solution that's better. And, the last vendor we spoke with is actually, we're working through it, but we might be getting GPS trackers on trains. So we will be able to have real-time information, get that real-time data for these train trips. But that's kind of where we're at. And we're going back and forth, but,
we're hoping to do a pilot. So we've been working with getting some proposals, and then once we have that, we do have some info, and then we're going to sit down with John when he gets back from his vacation. But we think that they have a solution for real time, even though it will go into the tunnel 3 times. So he has a kind of way that we're going to try putting GPS trackers on 10 train sets, so 20 cars, and actually see what we can get real time wise. And then if that's a good solution, then we can move forward. But that's an actual real time without installing GPS system in the whole subway tunnel. So,
Reggie, can I ask 2 questions? Quick ones. You're on mute.
Yes, we are
I'll
running
make
up
them
against
quick.
time, so quick
I'll
questions.
make them quick. Do you know if it's doing dead reckoning based on the wheel turns in the tunnel, or if it's using beacons for in the tunnel is how it's going to get information without GPS? Did they specify how they're going to do that?
we didn't go that deep down into
Okay.
it, Jeff.
he was
That's
going to
something.
give us a GPS device that we would install in the train car.
Yeah,
I'm not
for,
sure
but
what.
for when it gets in the tunnel, just know that there's sort of the 2 approaches. One is where it bases it on the wheel turns. The
Okay.
other is where it bases it on like a little beacon that communicates with the platforms. The beacons are good because you don't have any cases where it gets out of sync from wheel slip. But
Okay.
on the other hand, if you do it just based on the wheel turns and not the beacons, you can sort of get partial along the way information. But if you're not going to have radio service in the tunnel anyway for it to get the updates, you might as well just use the beacons anyway, because you're not going to get the partial
Okay.
updates when it's going through there. So,
All right, so Jeff, when we discuss that, the beacons is
Okay.
the better
beacons
one.
is the way to go. All right.
that's it, because that's at least what I like, because then it means you also are not needing to interface with your reverser in each car and trying to also link into the specific wheel turns. So that's the one thing there. The second question I have more just generally is for this vendor for the real-time information. Generally, your real-time information is based on modifications to the schedule. Are
Mhm.
they also going to be doing the schedule inclusive of the track work alongside of that as well?
It'll be bundled in, Jeff, because I
Oh,
know the
cool.
real time
Okay.
overrides the static GPS.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
No,
that's where I'm
that's
at.
good to
I
hear.
do not want to settle, having the solutions that we had over the last couple of years of just doing a service alert. They're great. I think that's great. It's, it's a step up from what we offer now. But like, I want to take it to that next one and get, real time, especially if we're going to go switch to another vendor from our current vendor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We've been working on that since the last meeting. So, and then we have to sit down and talk with John when he gets back. So that's
Cool.
our plan. So.
Sounds good.
And it'll also
Thanks.
include the station alerts as well, too, which is a plus. That's a huge for elevator, escalator availability to be able to publish that as well.
One thing I'll throw out just as an aside that just came to me now, SEPTA has republished their entire GTFS today to rename every station as
Nice.
whatever name, parentheses, closed February 14th for the stations that are closed, then I don't know if there's any, obviously renaming the stations probably would be a little more laborious, but if you guys can put out an alert through the Google Transit Partner platform, that might be worth doing just as to make sure that shows up, even if you're not going to have GTFS removing service from the other stations. For people who don't know, Friday is going to be a different day for most people.
Yes, it will. So, and then I think Mike, that was all the questions for you. So then there's a bunch of questions for Packet I'll take. I'm not sure who asked the question, but are there any plans or vision for Franklin Square to play in the Philly 215 hoteling strategy? We're not involved in anything. No hotels have reached out to us or anything. So I'm not sure who asked that, but we're not involved with that. Let me go through all the questions. I'll answer them, and then if somebody has a question, we'll come back to them to try to get this on schedule so I can get the answers out.
Yep.
Is there an announcement program with the proper station announcement when stations are bypassed? So we bypass the station. Normally it's in an old train. We take it out of service and we deadhead it back to Lindenwald, another one. We don't have any.
John, this was my question on that 12:15 a.m. train going to Broadway. It announced next stop City Hall, even though it wasn't making City Hall. That's what that question was, because
Okay.
City Hall had closed by that time.
All right. So I will look into why it's announcing City Hall when it's closed.
Could have just been the operator picked the wrong program, is what I figured.
All right. Will customers migrate? I know. So what I did is Cheryl sent out to all of you. We have sent an FAQ of because there's been questions before about our upcoming fare enhancements. That was what Mike worked with us on to put on our website. So I had that sent out to you. Obviously generated some questions, and then hopefully you got as well. We sent you our plans for our parade celebration because we knew that the Eagles were going to win on Friday when I had Cheryl send that to you. So I wanted to make sure that you guys saw that before that. But some of the questions, will customers migrating from our stored value cards to the contact have an option to receive a refund? No, but what we're going to do is the two systems will run side by side for a period of time until we make the decision to turn off the other ones. So they'll still be able to use the value on their cards, and once the value is finished, they can dispose of that card and move on. But the intent, and I think it comes down, the intent is two systems running together at the same time for a period of time. And basically, the other question, will the Freedom Cards be eliminated due to the new fare collection system? Not at this time, but sometime in the future it will. You know, those who use it, like Jeff, when we do open payments, we believe a high percentage of people will adapt to this and move over. And then when the low use of Freedom Cards we start to see that, then we would make a decision to stop selling them and slowly use the end of them. But we will have a card for the reduced fare program and the transit benefit users. So they will still have a card because right now none of them have a chip. The transit benefit people don't have a chip. So hopefully in the future they'll move over to that system, but we will have both systems running together for some time, and eventually there will be a decision that nobody's using the Freedom Card and we'll phase that out slowly. Will single-use tickets transition to contactless tickets? Yes. It'll be a flimsy card, a little better than a paper ticket, but it will be a throwaway contactless ticket. Will the gates be upgraded due to the new fare collection system or remain as is? The current gates will receive the new contactless payment devices certified to read the EMV, the new processing boards. Universal ticket transport, which reads the current magnetic ticket, will be removed. We have another project that we are progressing, and this year we hope to have new fare gates installed at 8th, City Hall, and Broadway. They are a new fare collection. There'll be new fare gates to deter fare evading. Our staff is going to Tennessee next week to verify the last couple of things that Cubic did on our last visit, which is lower gate so no one could crawl through. And then they're going to test. There's a break going to be in the panels that they can't push the panels open, which if anyone sees them do now, this will prevent them from pushing them open and will keep from them destroying the actual motor. So once that's done, we will push a contract out with Cubic to have them later this year. I think, Jeff, it's similar to, but a little bit different than the ones that Cubic has proposed up in Boston. But we believe it will be a dramatic improvement and reduce fare evading. And then when that pile is good, we have the money in the budget the following year to replace all the remaining fare gates. So that's the plan for that. And then they asked about what we just said, we're going to have both systems running together, half the gates. It's almost similar to those who went from our magnetic tickets to the Freedom Card back in the day. Half will have it, half won't. And we will pass out more things in the future in regards to that. Will there be interoperability with SEPTA's upgrade to Cubic? The key card will only work if funds are loaded in the debit portion of their account. So that key card would be able to use if the debit portion, and this is all from Kathy, our fair director. The new contactless readers will also be able to scan a Freedom Card. So people who have a Freedom Card will be able to tap on the actual new fare gates that's set up for open payments. And then we'll reduce fare. Customers be able to link to a credit card to their profile. She was unsure of the question, but if the question refers to the adoption of open payments and RFP customers are using a credit card instead of an RFP Freedom Card, no. RFP customers still need to use a RFP program Freedom Card to receive their discount. In the future, when RFP cards are removed from card-based to account-based, the use of a credit card as a token in the account will be possible. The question had to do with current procedures. Currently, RFP cards can have a registered credit card that can be used for automatic loads if the value reaches below 5. And I believe that is all those questions on that. And then, has there been a study on overnight ridership to determine what stations could be closed? Nothing yet on that, but there will be something looked at in the very near future. So I believe that was all the questions. So does anyone have questions on my response?
I'm not seeing any questions.
Either that or you did a good job of answering all the questions, and hopefully the information we provided to you. There was a lot of questions when we got hit with a lot of media attention, right, Mike? I think right around when SEPTA was going to go to Cubic for their contract, and we did a bunch of interviews with the KYW and was the Inquirer and all. So we just want to make sure that, and we generated that FAQ so everyone had those answers. So I think a lot of people were afraid that they weren't going to be able to use the Freedom Card, and we were moving away from it quickly.
Yep, and that packet was distributed.
So since
All
I've
right,
gone
so-
through all that and there's still 5 minutes, I sent you what we're doing for the parade. I don't know if anyone has any questions. There's been obviously a lot of questions on social media, but real quickly, this is the same plan we ran in 2018. We had developed it for the Pope. It really worked well for 2018. We moved as many people as possible within the confines of the constraints of our system. We have a train arriving in the morning every 5 minutes at 9th and 10th. There's no ability to squeeze anything more in there. We obviously picked the largest stations with the largest parking lots. For those who were here way back when the Phillies won the World Series, we stopped at every station, and that was a complete nightmare. No one could get on the trains. For those that get on a train, the dwell time for the train to stop and people to get on or look for a spot, those trains were stuck on the platform, and it just backs everything up. Going a direct shot from one station to the other, we can move a dramatically amount of people in a quick, efficient manner. And then on the way back, We don't have a schedule. We just bring a train in and every 6 minutes load them up and move them out. And the last time we probably spent 4 hours nonstop loading trains to get everyone out. And understandably, we do have, our regular riders. Unfortunately, that day we have questions that we can't get them to work, because we've closed stations or the timing. But Judy will attest. I did reach out to Jefferson, and they entailed Bent Hospital. We set it up to make sure essential employees can get around this. They get to bypass the line right to the front. We'll get them right on the first train, so they don't have to wait. And we've given them the information, and then we're even setting up a special train because at Jefferson, I think a lot of people are done at 7, so we're going to have a special 7:45 train where they can all get on, and we'll get them get out. So we really try to work with our partners. The same thing. Steve's not here, but I told him any SEPTA employees. We have a lot of SEPTA employees that live in New Jersey. We'll get them around the crowds and over into the city so they can, be there for them. So we believe what we've set up is the best way to move as many people as we can.
All right.
5:12 on Friday at Ferry, right?
Yes.
I'll be there.
Sounds
Sleeping
good.
on the couch at my office, but I'll be there.
All right, we have a couple more things. We don't have any social media questions tonight. Larry wasn't able to make it. Under the old business, Cheryl, question for you. Were there any movement on the nominations for the 3 individuals? For the, to the Finance Committee for, Thomas, William, and Scott?
So I have not heard anything. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that was for me. I will check and I will get an email to you.
Okay.
Thomas, William, and Scott.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
I
That's
believe
okay.
that goes to,
Is it the
Yeah,
finance or the
Tony.
audit committee?
I'm sorry, the
It's
audit
audit.
committee.
yeah,
Audit committee,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
it's Tony and Dave. They have to, I believe they have to reach out and have interviews with them, and then they would
Yeah.
present to so I believe the audit committee, the next audit committee would be that April, I think. They do it every 3 months, I believe. They do it 4 times a year. So just had it, Mike, I think we just had it in January, right, Mike? So I believe it's next one would be April.
Okay,
So that would be the goal, to have them that all done by that time, Reggie. And for those, they conduct the interviews and then present to the audit committee for April.
okay, perfect, thank you. All right, there's that. That is all we have for DRPA. We have one more item for the committee, and then we'll be adjourned. So any final last questions before we adjourn with the DRPA individuals?
Bob's waving his hand.
Hey, Bob.
Reggie, Mike, we need help recruiting members from Pennsylvania. Any thoughts for the CAC?
Yeah, so Bob, it's probably been a while back at this time. I sent a couple ideas to Reggie and yourself. Maybe
Right.
we bump that up to the top of our email list and, we review that. But I think
Okay.
there are some ideas in there that we can do. And, I think doing a member spotlight, something along those lines on social, just to help elevate the CAC and encourage membership. But yeah,
Sure.
let's circle back and I'll go through the email and I'll refresh it and resend it to
I do
everyone, and we'll
I
get
do
that
recall seeing
conversation
that.
going again.
Okay.
Yeah. I do recall seeing
Anything,
that, and I thought I responded back by saying that it could be.
definitely want to help out. So anything I can do.
Yeah,
Perfect.
someone a few years ago had suggested that there are some local civic associations in and around Philadelphia that were close to the water, close to the Delaware River, like Old City, South Philadelphia. I don't know. I don't live or work in that area, so I'm not familiar with what's down there, but that they have newsletters that they circulate to their members. And if I don't know whether you have any access to any of that, any of those groups, but they might also bring us some people of interest,
Okay. Yeah, we can explore that. I mean, we also have social. I mean, LinkedIn, I think will be a strong platform to do it on. So,
Great. Okay,
Okay, let's circle
thank you.
back on that.
Yeah, I've pushed it on my own LinkedIn. I think there was a couple, I don't know if they ever reached out, but I know I pushed it out on my LinkedIn message. Anything we could do to do that, I'll be happy to do so.
Thank you.
yeah, so I mean, we do from time to time. We haven't on social. We have done posts in the past, and I know that some Paco train cars we do have it running on the LCD slides on the actual train cars. But with being a new year, new start, let's maybe look at those, and I can circulate those, and we can do a refresh, revamp on those.
But
Sure, sounds perfect.
those are aimed at New Jersey residents primarily who are crossing the bridge into Philadelphia. What we're lacking is people that are
Correct, Bob.
maybe doing the reverse commute that live
Yep.
in Philly and work in Jersey, or that take the bridge across, or
Yes.
which is far and few between, I guess, right?
So we're gonna miss the bridge. You're correct. We're gonna miss the bridge users audience on that, but maybe it's something we can use our VMS signs at the bridges for something like that, or maybe something in easy pass statements. So there's some ideas there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, good. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you, Mr. Venuto. Thank you, Mr. Rink.
Certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Finnegan.
And I
Yes,
don't
sir.
think we have our new candidate on with
We
us.
do not.
Yeah, okay, got it.
I was
Okay.
looking for him, but he was not there. So thank you, DRPA officials. We will speak next month.
All right, have a good one.
Thank
Happy
you. Have a good night.
Valentine's Day,
Enjoy-
everybody.
Yes,
you.
enjoy
Bye,
the
everybody.
party if you're going.
Yeah, be
All right,
safe,
so-
everybody.
All right.
So
See-
DRPA, we
Thank you.
still have one more order of business. And this is an important order of business. We are at the point in time where we need to have our elections. So we are taking nominations for chairman, vice chair, and for secretary. So as I stated when I sent the email out last week, give it some thought. So we have 6 individuals, and I mentioned this last month. We have 6 individuals that are voting members that can run for any of those positions. I'm still working on trying to get the emeritus timeframe shortened so we can have more membership at this point, but that has not yet yielded any positive movement. So for the 3 positions at this point in time, I did have a conversation with Scott, and he will not be able to move on to a chairman role. So my computer rebooted, so I don't have all the names up. I can pull that up very quickly. So do we have any nominations for any of the roles while I'm looking for my document? And silence.
I thought we had talked about this, besides Scott not coming in, we just need a replacement for Scott. Is that correct?
No. So now so we need.
I thought we had talked everybody was going to sustain themselves and you were going to go off for a few and then Scott was going to, while you were out.
So Scott's not able to. Scott and I had an offline conversation, and due to his other obligations outside of here, he's not able to move into the chairman position.
Right, correct.
So at this point, because he was trying to, we were coming up with some creative ideas, perhaps possibly changing the date of the meeting, things like that. So it would accommodate that, but that's a lot of moving pieces, just to keep things up and running. So as we have it now, we have Tyrone, Bob, Strasso, Scott, Judy, Grace, and Steve. Those are,
I'm too broken up, man. So I
well,
can't
to that
do it.
end,
I got
we
the
need-
knowledge. I can't. I've been there and done that, man.
that's fine.
I'll
I get it.
support. I'll be a member, but I'm not searching for all that no more.
Right. So you go emeritus in March next month. Bob, you go emeritus in June, and Strasso goes emeritus in December.
Why don't you
So,
take it, Bob?
well, Bob is going to be emeritus, so we'd be in the same situation in June, rather in July. Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's
So who comes off emeritus soon?
who's coming off emeritus?
We got a few people. We need to call them.
Well, I've reached out to them.
Nobody,
Larry's
nobody.
Larry's off emeritus now. Daniel McCardle is off emeritus. Those are the only two that comes off emeritus at this point in time.
Larry would be a
hang on.
good candidate.
It's a shame we. It's a shame we didn't. We couldn't get them guys in January. I would nominate one of them guys. You know what I mean? You know, Tom or,
I know,
Scott.
So
what are the new bloods? You know what I mean?
Right. I don't have an issue continuing in the role, but it should be someone who's full-fledged. But due to the rules that we have in place, that's where we are, unfortunately.
Well, it seems to me that I think I made the suggestion that you continue as acting chair, in just until we can
Yeah,
decide.
that's what I thought. I thought we had it all nailed down.
And
Reggie,
Al is continuing
Scott,
too. Yes.
Judy's gonna stay as secretary. You know what I mean? I thought we had it together. Here comes Judy gonna raise her hand.
Because Reggie,
Easiest position ever.
do the rules say that you can? I know that once you're emeritus, that's the case. But when do you go emeritus? Sorry.
I'm already emeritus.
Oh, okay.
I went emeritus in December.
Oh.
So, just trying to keep, I'm still doing it because there's no one else. And I don't mind doing it. I'm fine doing it. But I just want to make sure that we, abide by the bylaws. I'm working on trying to get the bylaws amended so we can shorten the emeritus process, so that we can have more people roll off and then roll back on in a short order. But those individuals that have rolled off have not, quote unquote, re-enlisted.
Reggie, since we've amended our bylaws so many times, I think you should, wait till Mr. Hanson come back and talk to him and just
I
tell
sent
him
him another email. Yeah. I have an email out to him and the attorney.
We got 3 guys that all they got to do is, go through the audit, finance thing, whatever, interviews. I mean, there's been string pulled before. These guys look like they ready to work. You know what I mean?
Which I'm really happy to see.
He got the tie on. He ready to go. You know what I mean?
I'm ready to.
What we can do in the interim is, in lieu of the election, the election process now, when we have after April, probably in the May timeframe, we can hold a special election, keep the board as it currently stands right now, and then, just extend the term a little bit just until we can get more members up, so we still have continuity. Because
that sounds good.
Because you're going to go emeritus next month, so we lose another member. Bob's going to go emeritus, and then we lose another one as well.
You're still going to talk to Mr. Hanson about that, right?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, about us, the emeritus situation. Yeah.
Right. Yep. So that's still in play at this point in time. So that's not off the table. I've had several emails go back and forth. We just need to work with the attorney so we can have it amended.
Yeah, and we got these new members, and they look like they just, you know what I mean, they ready. You know what I mean?
I'm more than happy to turn over the reins to someone. I'll work through a transitionary period as always, and make sure that we have good continuity. But
right.
So we will table the elections for now, hold special elections in May. Once they've made it through the audit committee and then the veto period expires as well, then we should be able to have full-fledged members, and then we can have more of a selection for the elections.
I'll make a motion if you accept the motion.
We'll have a motion to suspend elections until May. Second?
Second. I would also suggest, Reggie, because I'm sure that Daniel Scott and Thomas do not know what the hell we're talking about. If we explain a little bit about the process of what happens after, it's 2 terms of 3 years, is that right, Reg? Does that sound right?
2 terms.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Yeah, that we have to take a year hiatus from being a board member, but we can still participate, but we just can't vote. And
Right.
then we have to come back on again and just have a sort of reapply, but it's pretty simple. And then and I'm at the end, coming up at the end of my second 6 years, I guess, maybe
Right,
even
and-
longer than that, maybe. Who
And so what
knows?
makes it a little bit more challenging is with Bob going emeritus, he was also the chairman of the member committee.
Yeah.
So
Tyrone's
I'm-
going to take my place.
No, I'm your assistant, and I'm gonna be emeritus. So you know, what I mean, there's nothing you can do.
right, so
You know?
yeah, so all right, so we have the motion to hold elections in the May timeframe. I'll make a note of that. I'll put that on the May agenda. So we'll keep the board as we stand right now. So I'll continue doing with all the creation and everything that I'm doing now. So we'll just keep that going until May.
Yeah, and Reggie, and talk to Mr. Hanson because he'll work it out with you. We had to
Oh,
work
I
it
know
out.
it's not Mr. Hanson, it's the attorney. That's
Yeah,
the issue.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's John has been facilitating everything. It's the
Yeah.
attorney.
Okay.
So all right. So we're done with that. Does anyone have anything for the good of the group?
Reggie, you said the attorney. What attorney? Are the DRPA attorney?
DRPA attorney, yes.
Okay. And what's he got to decide? Isn't the bylaws kind of like our decision?
Well, we work with
Or
the
is that-
attorney. So
We're serving the board. We're here at their discretion. So
right. So
they have-
so they have to amend. They have to be agreeable to the terms that we're looking to amend. So
Yeah.
we can't arbitrarily do it. We have to do it with their input and approval.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Quick question.
Anyone? Yep.
Is there a copy of the bylaws anywhere? Like, can we read those, or is that?
I do have them.
You
I
got
think
some?
they're on
online.
the website.
Yeah, they're on the
Oh, yeah,
website.
okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
thought they were on the website, Reggie.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
Yes, they
That's
are.
correct.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
And the last question, will our 3 new members to be able to come if they want to the for the tour of the Franklin Square station before us?
No. So unless they are a board member, they will not be able to attend due to the insurance policy.
Got it.
So
Okay.
Now, Richie, I wanted to ask you about that because I'm not going to be able to make it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And years ago, I used to walk on the other side, on the city side, looking at that station when it was
Right.
all closed up. So I like to see somebody take some pictures or something, so I can just look at it because I'm not going back down there no more. You know what I
As
mean?
long, as
Yeah.
long as it is not the weekend that we have to do our revenue service demonstration testing for our grand opening of 30 new miles of territory, we're doing our testing March 1st and March 2nd. As long as it's not, I will text you photos aplenty.
Thanks, Jeff.
I
Thanks.
don't think
got
it's
it.
going to be that weekend, but
All right.
it's so soon.
Hopefully
So
not.
hopefully not. All right. That being said, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Come on, Bob. You're slow.
I'm second.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night. We'll
Good
speak
night.
next month. A great
All
meeting,
right.
everyone. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Happy Valentine's